Hey guys, welcome to another episode. Today we have taken out the old hit miss engine to do a little bit of work on it. I will give you a walk around of this. I'm Zack and this is my odd garage. We are looking at my 1921, 1922. I'm not 100% sure. I have two different websites saying that the serial numbers either a 21 or a 22. It's a Jaeger hit miss engine. There's the serial number. It's a 2 horsepower and it spins at 550 RPM. I can also show the Jaeger Machine Company nameplate. So this one was made in Columbus, Ohio, where the Jaeger Machine Company was based. This plate tells us the model numbers and what it was used for. This one was, like I said previously, on a concrete mixer. So let's talk a little bit about how a hit miss engine works and why it's called a hit miss engine. So the reason it's called a hit miss engine is because it literally hits and misses. So I mentioned the 550 RPM earlier because once the engine runs below that speed, it will fire the engine. So what happens is the exhaust, while the engine's running, the exhaust valve is held open, and once the engine realizes that it's running below that RPM, it closes the exhaust valve and it fires. So this is the mechanism here. Exhaust valves on the bottom. This stays like this, closes here, and then the intake one opens, lets in air and gas, or kerosene if you're running kerosene, and that's how that works. Let's talk about the components on it. So we mentioned the valves here, right? Intake, exhaust. There's a connecting rod underneath here. This connects to this. There are a bunch of mechanisms here. So as the engine is spinning, this is rotating, and we can see this piece down here moves in and out. Now when this is spinning, as it slows down, these two balls on the end, you can see here, these are gonna close in, and we can see the lever moves in this way, which will allow this mechanism to move in, effectively closing the valve. So the centrifugal force on these tells the entire thing to make contact with that plate there or to not. If we look on this side, we can see we have two gigantic flywheels. This is how you start it. And this is also where you would use it to run whatever you're running. So this one was on a concrete mixer. It had this sprocket on the side, this gigantic sprocket that probably ran a chain up to the concrete mixer to allow it to spin. Now you can change that out to run something like a chain like it has, or you can run a belt. Belts are more common nowadays. Not nowadays, but at fairs and stuff, belts are more common to run saws and whatnot. So we can see the exposed piston in the center here when it's out a bit. It's a single cylinder, as you can see. The flywheels spin, move the piston. And you can see all these gears are turning as I'm moving this, right? So they're gonna continually turn. And we can even hear the compression and the snap there. Now the snap piece is what is telling our magneto to fire. So you can see as I'm spinning it, this is pushing on this magneto, moving these coil springs, charging it up, and sending a signal right to here. So this magneto is actually special, where the engine doesn't actually use a spark plug. Instead, this uses an igniter. This is a Webster Type 2 magneto. These magnetos are called low tension magnetos because they don't produce a high enough voltage to be used with a spark plug in the engine. The basic concept behind this magneto is moving a steel bar through a magnetic field generated around a coil that's inside this magneto. Later on, the design was improved actually for later versions of this particular hit-miss engine, where they utilized an external coil so they can get a higher voltage to a spark plug. Model T by Ford also used a similar concept in their magnetos. So now that we talked about that, the other piece there's two other pieces that are important. This is the oiler. If this is up, oil will go down and oil the piston. That's very important. You never want your piston to be dry, same as in cars. Then the other piece right here, it doesn't have any in there. This is the cooler. So you put water in here and it cools the cylinder. You can see inside. Cools the cylinder with the water just sitting there. You can run these not very long without the water. So today I'm not going to put any water in it when we fire it up. Here is the exhaust. You can see the soot around. I need to tune the carburetor a little bit to make it a little bit more lean. Here is where you would add fuel. The fuel tank sits in the belly of this piece. We're going to talk about the fuel tank later today. Today we're going to use a mason jar, but I'm going to clean the old gas tank out, and that way I can use it again. This is where air comes in. So you see there's a small opening. You can change the opening based on the ratio. Normally, like I said, the fuel tank is under here. There would be a connection between these two points. I took that off because I'm going to tap into here when we use our mason jar as a gas tank. This is our mix ratio. So when we start this, I'm going to back this out so I can let a certain amount of air in and a certain amount of fuel in. It's basically just a single needle. Very old carburetor, very basic. So this screw has a point on the end to act as a needle like in a carburetor. Okay, so I hooked up our temporary gas line. I got an old piece of copper tubing running down to our mason jar. Alright, let's get this thing started up. So, first thing I'm going to do is open up our mixture. The next thing I'm going to have to do, since the fuel is a lot lower than it normally would be, I'm going to have to plug the air hole so it will suck up fuel. The other important piece is the timing. I'm going to retard the timing here a little bit so that it will run. And then once it starts, you want to put the timing immediately back. I'm going to turn on our oil. Cool. So the exhaust is a little bit wet. Clearly it needs a little bit more tuning, but it fired right up. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the hit miss special. Tune in next time for a variety of options. It could be the motorcycle engine that you don't see here behind me anymore. I have got a few bolts in it, and then I will be putting that all back together. I'm pulling the gas tank out of the hit miss engine to get cleaned, so there'll be content on that. We have a part 2 of the Suzuki engine rebuild coming up. Lots more options. There's also going to be a snowblower special for the upcoming winter for those of you who are expecting snow relatively soon, or maybe those who already have snow. Like, subscribe, leave a comment below. My Instagram is here. Follow me there. Check out that for updates. See you next time.